It's the 2-Point Conversion Podcast.
Hello, everybody.
With your host, TFA.
Yeah, baby.
Only on the MBL Network.
Hey MBL, this is TFA Warner here, and I'm proud to announce this is the first ever episode of TFA's 2-Point Conversion. Now, you guys may be wondering what TFA's 2-Point Conversion is going to be about, so I'm just kind of going to give you guys a little bit of an overview of what we're going to cover in each podcast. First, a little bit about the podcast itself. I'm hoping to kind of release one about every Friday, Saturday, once a week, just so we can kind of give an overview of about a 3-week span, talk about things that are going on in the league weekly, and just kind of give an oversight into everything that's happening in the league. And at the same time, I really wanted to kind of look a little bit deeper, into the MBL community and kind of get some of these guys in here that, we might not know much about outside of Madden. I kind of wanted to shed some light on that and just kind of introduce everybody to each other. I thought it'd be a great idea. We all play with each other all the time. We're all on gaming together and we're all on GroupMe, constantly. I just thought it'd be a little bit of a good idea if we kind of gave a little bit of insight into each person's life. Nothing too in-depth, but just kind of a little touch on that. So we're just going to have a simple format. I'm going to start off each week, announce what's going on in the league. That'll always be a little bit different depending on what's going on. Then I'm kind of going to go to like a 2-team rundown. Instead of doing a full overview of the whole league each week, I'm going to kind of focus on 2 specific teams. So I'll pick a division for a 2-week span. I'll focus on the 4 teams that are in that division. And we'll go from there, and that's when we'll start introducing each of our owners a little bit more in depth. So we'll go from that. I'm kind of going to do a big game picks segment where I total those 3 weeks up, give my picks for a contender game, a toilet bowl game, and my pick for game of the week for each 3 of those weeks. So we'll kind of add and subtract segments and stuff as we go. Being the first one, I didn't want to get too crazy, didn't want to get too in depth. I just kind of wanted to look at, the basis format that we'd be using. And so, we'll see where it goes and we'll see how the podcast grows. First thing we're going to start off with this week is league happenings. I wanted to re-emphasize the apology that I gave to the league earlier today. I want to apologize to Bomber, Lip, Project Fat for the way I handled the Jackie Moon situation. That was completely, unprofessional of me, and I kind of wanted to just reiterate that apology. MBL is such a great community, and we're glad to have people, like Bomber and Lip right at the helm running everything. So, thank you guys for everything that you always do, and I'm sorry to everybody. Next order of business, I want to welcome new Colts owner, Homer Hankey, to MBL. Congratulations on the call-up, buddy. I hope to see, big things from you in the future. Right now, in MBL, everybody knows, we have the MBL trivia time. We have the brand new release of MBL magazine. So right now, for MBL trivia time, Backley is currently in the lead with 6 points. One and only is in second with 5. And then we have a bunch of guys following right behind him with 3, 2, 1. So it's going to be a really fun race. I think this is something that's really good for the league. Gets everybody involved, and I think everybody really enjoys when trivia time comes up. Just kind of having that idea to run through the history of MBL, and from when it first started to today. It's a really cool piece of it's a really cool piece to the chat that really adds a lot of texture, and it adds a lot of just basic chat. MBL magazine, first ever issue. Great job done by Bomber and everybody that was involved. The first ever issue, Demarius Thomas was on the cover. So Backley, shout out to you. Congratulations on getting the cover for the first MBL magazine. Really look forward to seeing, what you guys can do with that coming up for the future. So with that, we're going to take us into this week's 2-team rundown. For the 2-team rundown, I want to do something a little bit different. Each podcast we really just have the general overview of the league, but I really wanted to get more in depth and kind of focus on two teams specifically, like I said before. Um, so it's going to get a little bit personal, hopefully, but it's going to be nice to kind of learn things that we might not know about each other. Um, so this week being the first ever one, I wanted to start off with, my own division, the AFC North. So this week, the two-team rundown is going to be the Browns, myself, and the Baltimore Ravens and Pricey Starling. I decided to start off with myself just so I can get it out of the way, make it a lot easier, going forward, and kind of just to get a basis. It makes it a little bit simpler for me doing my first podcast. Um, so right now, the Cleveland Browns, I'm currently sitting at 1-5. We're struggling. We're having a really rough season. Quarterback play really hasn't been where we'd like it to be. The defense really hasn't been where we'd like it to be. It's a very spotty team altogether right now. Um, I do have a few bright points. My rookie halfback Torian Parker, drafted in the second round. He's currently carrying the load. He's got 84 attempts, 349 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's a real workhorse. He's a real power back, and it's really nice to finally kind of have some kind of running back and running game. Duke Johnson in the past just wasn't quite getting it done. He's more your bounce it to the outside, catch passes kind of guy. But he really struggled in the every down back kind of a role. Next, my wide receiver core has been great, the past couple seasons. I added rookie wide receiver Cornell Dunbar. He has been absolutely phenomenal this season. He's got 25 catches for 428 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's been a really great contribution to this team alongside Josh Gordon, and kind of something that we've been missing in this offense. Previous years we've had Pierre Garcon, we've had Aaron Dobson, but we didn't really have that solidified number 2 role kind of guy. And I think Cornell Dunbar fits that really well. On the defensive side of the ball, we don't have a lot going on. Middle linebacker Andrew Tate, 35 total tackles right now. That's 10 more than my number 2 guy. But other than that, we're not forcing a lot of turnovers or anything like that. So we have a long way to go. Right now, the Browns are sitting at 62% in offensive red zone efficiency, which is the worst in the league. That's got to change if we're going to win games over here in Cleveland. And the turnover differential as well, we're at -16, which is also the worst in the league, and that's actually by 10 turnovers. So we've got a long, long way to go if we're going to improve this team, but hopefully we can pick it up, here in the coming weeks. A little bit more about me personally. I was born and raised in Massachusetts. I moved out to Wichita, Kansas a couple years ago to go to school here. I currently study criminal justice at Wichita State University. Outside of Madden and outside of school, I love playing golf. I'm a big bowler. Like some of you guys might know, I really do plan on going professional next year. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Bowling's been something that's kind of been a big part of my life for a long, long time. So we'll kind of see, where that takes me and see where school takes me afterwards. Let's take a look at now. We'll head over to Baltimore, where Pricey Starling, he took over the Ravens earlier this year. Seems like a real great guy. He's a real good competitor. Plays a good game of Madden. I've already played him once, and it was a really, really tough game. We went to overtime. So hats off to him. Stepping in, and he started off a little weak, and he struggled a little bit here at the beginning. But I think he's starting to come around. I believe he actually ended up beating the Panthers today and gave them their first loss. So shout out to you, Baltimore Ravens. Way to do big things in the AFC North and knock off one of the powerhouses in the NFC. As far as the Baltimore Ravens team goes, Joe Flacco's having a pretty good year. He's sitting at 62.8% completion, 1,036 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So the passing game, is there. He's not having a bad season. He's not turning the ball over a lot. He's got a turnover differential of -2, which is right there in the middle of the league. He only has 6 giveaways and 4 takeaways, so that right there is a huge part to his team's not losing and not being blown out in some of these games that he has lost. I think, that 4 takeaways, if that was turned around and he had, 5 or 6 more takeaways, he'd be right there, battling for the division. So I think his team's going to turn around. A couple bright spots for his team, definitely tight end Crockett Gilmore. He's sitting at 18 catches for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. I know when I played the Ravens personally, he was phenomenal. He was all over the field. He was making great catches, making good run after the catch. Um, and defensively, C.J. Mosley, man, he is absolutely incredible. He's everywhere on the defense. He's got 43 total tackles on the season, which is 16 more than his second guy. So he's really doing a lot for that defense. Where they are struggling, though, on the defensive side of the ball, they only have 7 sacks on the season, which that's not a lot of sacks. He's averaging about 1 a game. I think that in order for him to compete at a high level, he's definitely going to have to get a little bit more pressure on the quarterback and see where that goes. He's really, really efficient in the red zone. He's got a 92% offensive efficiency. So he's getting to the red zone and he's scoring. He's not turning the ball over. I think there's just a very minimal amount that this Ravens team needs to do from here on out to make that next step. So I think they're going to be there, really, really soon. I got to know Pricey Starling a little bit today. So just so you guys know a little bit more about him. Pricey Starling is 30 years old. He was born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He actually works on a farm. His parents own a farm, and he works there. He raises layer hens. He sells the eggs. It's kind of a really cool job. Something a little bit different, something you don't necessarily see, a lot today. Outside of work and Madden, Pricey really enjoys, relaxing, playing a nice round of golf. He said he really enjoys golf. Some of his favorite things about the Ravens, he loves the defense that he has. He loves his secondary. He knows that he needs some improvements offensively. He thinks he needs, some improvements running the ball. Probably a new running back after the season's over. Niall Davis is doing all right, but I don't think he's really carrying the load like he'd like him to. So we'll kind of see where that goes, and hopefully the Ravens can turn it around. Nice to meet you, Pricey Starling, and welcome to the league. Next week on the rundown, we're going to finish off the AFC North. We're going to get to know owners Lip and Sonny, and then we're going to head over to the NFC. We'll kind of do an alternating AFC, NFC kind of divisional thing here. So now we're going to move into one of my favorite segments right now. It's going to be the big game picks. So each podcast, like I said, I'm going to key in on 3 games. We're going to have a contender game, a toilet bowl game, and my pick for game of the week. Now, for me, the contender game is going to be teams that are up there in record, teams that are fighting for division, or just kind of important games that week. My toilet bowl game has nothing to do with the teams playing in it. I'm just going to be, really just basing it off of record right now, and it's going to be kind of your needs improvement game. And then my pick for the game of the week is just going to be the game that I think is going to be the most interesting to see in the chat, and the most interesting to see kind of going forward with everything that's going on. So for week 7, my contender game is going to be October and his Eagles against APV's Vikings. Now I've got October winning this game 24-16. I think this could potentially show if APV and his Vikings are ready to compete with Bomber. Or, it could show that the hot start that the Vikings got off to was a little bit of a fluke. I think October really needs to win this game, even though we're early in the season. I think he really needs to win this game to maintain first place in his division. Tom's Giants are right on his tail, so I think he's really got to keep winning games. My toilet bowl game of week 7 is going to be Jamzell and his Bills against Bob and his Bears. Now I have Jamzell winning this 17-13. I think that the Bills need to get a win. Plain and simple. I think they won the division last year, and they've gotten off to a pretty rough start this year. So I think that if they want to, make a push, I think that they really need to turn things around. Bob and his Bears, they've been struggling for a long time. Bob's a great guy, and he's in the chat all the time, always contributing. So I hope that he can turn it around and kind of get this team looking better. My game of the week for week 7 might surprise some people. I think my game of the week is going to be Frylock and his Saints versus one and only is his Falcons. These two have kind of been going at it in the chat every once in a while. One and only has been such a dominant NBL force for multiple seasons. And as good as he's been, Fry has kind of been the opposite of that. He's been equally as bad as one and only has been good. Um, so the trash talk's already begun. Fry really thinks that he's going to be able to knock the Falcons off sometime soon. I'm really looking forward to seeing if that happens. And the Falcons can't afford a loss right now. After the Panthers lost today, they're going to be tied for the division. We'll see where that division goes, but that's a tight division that you really can't afford many losses with if you're the top. Heading over to week 8 now. The contender game that I have for week 8 is Bomber and his Lions and Tom and his Giants. I have the Lions winning 27-20. I think Bomber continues to roll. They really haven't shown any signs that they're going to slow down anytime soon. I really do think Tom needs to get this victory, though. He needs to prove that he's a contender to win not just the NFC but the Super Bowl. And I think he needs to keep up with October. I really do think that even though Tom loses this game, that it's going to be an ultimate win for Tom because I think Teddy's finally going to show some signs of greatness. I think he's going to kind of show that he could be the leader of that team and kind of take the next step towards stardom. My toilet bowl game of week 8 is actually my Browns against CMF's Buccaneers. I had to put myself winning this game, but I have it as a close one. I have it 31-28. I really need that victory to start winning if I want to make any type of playoff push. But the Bucks and I have never played before. He's kind of a newer owner. So we'll see how it goes. There haven't been any matchups between these two teams, so there's not really a scouting report going into the game. So either one of us could bust open with a big game, and it's kind of just up in the air. My game of the week for week 8 is actually Homer's Colts and Tott's Dolphins, and I have Homer winning 27-10. I don't know a whole lot about Homer. Welcome to the league, brand new owner in here. But I do know a lot about Tott, and I think this is a great way for Homer to get off to a good start is to beat Tott. It's just a matchup that intrigues me, and I'm sure interested to see how it plays out. I'm really excited too to see what the new Colts ownership can bring to the table. Let's head over to week 9 now. Week 9 we have a huge contender matchup. We're gonna have Wildcat and his Panthers against one and only and his Falcons. This is essentially going to be for the division lead. I have the Panthers winning 24-22. I think that one and only might, have to tie the game up late in the game. He's going to be down by a couple. He's going to go for a 2-point conversion, and I think he's going to miss it. I think that this is a huge matchup every season. But Wildcats finally right up there competing. He's on top. So I'm interested to see if he can pull out the win and maintain the division lead. My toilet bowl game this week. Unfortunately, had to go back to the AFC East of Jamzell and his Bills and Delvar's Jets. I have Jamzell winning again, 16-3. So even though I have Jamzell in the toilet bowl game 2 out of 3 weeks, I think he's going to win both of those games. I think that this matchup could potentially determine who gets the better draft pick in the AFC East. Both teams definitely need a big turnaround, so we'll see if we can get it here. My game of the week in week 9 is going to be DK's Chargers versus Project Fat's Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to win 27-24. I think this is a real big upset. I think Fat has definitely found a defense over in Oakland. And I think if he plays to his abilities and doesn't make any mistakes, I think he has the ability to beat DK and his Chargers, who are definitely on a roll right now. I really look forward to seeing what happens in this game between these two. I think the Raiders really need the win if they want to get in the playoff race, and this could definitely be a big game in terms of the division crown goes for DK. Next week on the podcast, I'm going to hope to add a few more interesting and fun segments. Those will be announced kind of at a later date. But the first official 2-point podcast, I want to make sure that everything, technologically speaking, went smooth. I didn't want to add too many segments and, overwhelm myself. But definitely look for an announcement within the upcoming week. I think that we're going to put out some really good content. I don't think we're going to be in terms of video purposes and graphics wise. I don't think we're going to be able to compete with 4 verts or the extra point. I think those guys both do, a phenomenal job getting all of their graphics together, just coming out with some revolutionary stuff, really changing the way that this league goes, and how the community works. So I think that they're doing a great job over there. I think it's going to be a little bit of time before I can figure out all the graphics aspect of it. But for right now, we just kind of wanted to keep things simple and start off with a bang. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the first ever TFA's 2-point conversion. We'll see how it goes next week. We'll see what the reviews are like, and hopefully we can be back with you guys. So hope you guys all have a great week. Hope you enjoyed. This was TFA's 2-point conversion.